In the wonderful world of Japanese animation, most productions we see today are adaptations, works based on pre-existing source material. There's nothing inherently wrong with this, but every adaptation has its challenges, like running alongside an ongoing manga series without compromising the pacing, or drawing inspiration from a text-based work, or even trying to recreate the look and feel of an interactive experience. Or how about this, creating a linear, cohesive narrative from a work with 3 possible stories. Yeah, that sounds pretty challenging indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Fate Stay Night, an electronic visual novel released in 2004 for the PC. Visual novels are basically interactive storybooks that allow the reader to make decisions from the main character's point of view, leading to different paths and endings. Games like these are often meant for adults and deal with subject matters like romance and sex, but Fate Stay Night was different. Fate presented its readers with an epic story about a battle royale between teams of mages and heroic legends from all across history. With all the romance and sex still intact, of course. Oh yeah. This novel, game novel? Really left an impact back whenever it first came out, and spawned a franchise of multiple different anime series, games, novels, and films, including a direct anime adaptation in 2006 and the prequel series Fate Zero in 2011. My personal experience with the 2006 series wasn't exactly a good one. The anime felt rather uninspired in its presentation and was pretty messy in its storytelling. There was even a movie version adapting an alternate route, which, while feeling more focused and better animated, was pretty much the anime equivalent of that one best friend you had in high school who couldn't stop telling cool stories.
So like this ginger guy was just minding his own business, right? But then like this freaking blue guy just stabs him in the chest, but it's okay though, because ginger guy's got this army of hot girls who've totally got his back. And Hercules was there. And then the red guy like fires his bow and arrow and freaking annihilates him. But you know how people die when they're killed? Well, he didn't die. He just gets right back up and walks away. And then like this magician puts the blonde one in a slave outfit, and red guy steals Ginger's girlfriend, and Ginger's like, "Ah, man, I gotta get back there."
And whoa, hey dude, slow down! What? Despite the mixed quality of the previous Fate iterations, the 2011 prequel series Fate Zero turned out to be fantastic. It really did deliver upon the potential of the original concept. And I was super excited to hear that the studio behind Fate Zero would be tackling Fate Stay Night with their own version. And that's where we are now. Created to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the original visual novel, we now have a brand new Fate Stay Night anime. A series that's part sequel, part remake, and all awesome. Hello my friends, my name is Bryan, and welcome to Nerdword Reviews. This is Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works. In the Japanese city of Fuyuki, there exists an underground battle royale known as the Holy Grail War. Participating in this war are mages who have used science and magic to summon mighty heroes of legend to fight alongside them as servants. These teams of masters and servants work together to eliminate the competition and come out on top, with the grand prize being none other than the legendary Holy Grail, a wish-granting device that will allow the victor's dreams to become reality. Participants in this war are chosen by the Grail itself, and mages from all across the world spend their entire lives training and preparing for the opportunity to be invited into the war. This brings us to our main characters. Shiro Emiya is a young man who uses his limited magical talents to help people by repairing electronics and appliances. Helping people is quite possibly Shiro's favorite thing to do, as traumatic experiences from his past have led him to value other people's lives and happiness above his own. Rin Tosaka is a young woman who comes from the prestigious Tosaka bloodline, and has become accomplished in every aspect of her life, including her schoolwork, extracurricular activities, social appeal, and of course, her skills in the art of magic. Shiro Emiya has a crush on Rin Tosaka, not just because of her good looks and plentiful accomplishments, but also for her strong sense of honor and independence. With the 5th Holy Grail War approaching, Rin uses every calculated measure she can to summon what she considers to be the best servant possible for the war, a servant of the Saber class. However, she biffs it and is instead given Archer, a heroic spirit who isn't based on any particular hero from the past, and also has no recollection of who he is. Meanwhile, Shiro Emiya, having absolutely no intention of entering the war, is somehow thrown into it through a combination of freak accidents and overall destiny, with the Saber-class servant pretty much being given to him on the spot. At first, Shiro rejects this opportunity, but eventually comes to accept it, and decides to do everything he can to win the war and use the Holy Grail to grant his wish of ensuring the safety of everyone on Earth. With Saber by his side, and with Rin and Archer acting as his rivals, Shiro will stop at nothing to achieve his ultimate dream and become a hero of justice. And that's basically the gist of it. There's a ton of other characters, you know, considering there are 5 more master-servant duos in this series, as well as Shiro and Rin's other friends and classmates. Overall, they're handled pretty well, or at least as well as they can be, considering just how linear and straightforward this story actually is. You see, unlike its prequel series, Fate Zero, Fate Stay Night tells a story that's rather streamlined, focusing on the perspective of one central character, and treating the protagonist as the hero of the story, with almost every other master and servant acting as the villains. With an approach like this, the sequence of events plays out just how you might expect it to. The other teams serve mostly as obstacles in Shiro's way as he fights his way through the war, and the adventure mostly focuses on him developing as a character. This is quite the different approach than was taken by Fate Zero, which capitalized on the concept of a battle royale by not necessarily having an obvious main character, but instead by analyzing the mindsets and ideologies of each individual participant in the war. Fate Stay Night might not have such an interesting perk, but what it does have is a greater sense of focus. It has a much more traditional approach to storytelling, complete with an old-fashioned protagonist who develops and reinforces definite themes and messages within the series. With such a potent concept as the Holy Grail War, I'm not quite sure if I prefer this approach, but I still do like it a lot. Moving on, I think the decision to adapt the Unlimited Blade Works route was definitely a smart move by the studio. Now, this route has actually been adapted before as an animated movie by Studio Dean, the previous animation studio who created the first Fate Stay Night series, which adapted what is known as the Fate route. The movie version, however, was a rushed mess. This new TV iteration tells pretty much exactly the same story, but with much better pacing and execution, making this the definitive version of Unlimited Blade Works. From my observations, one of the main distinctions between each of the 3 original routes of Fate Stay Night's story is that each route explores a different aspect of Shiro's character. This particular route goes deep into Shiro's motivation to become a hero of justice, and that seems like the perfect subject matter for a high-octane action show such as this. It allows the series to become a more mature take on some rather shonen themes. It's nice to see it all play out, as it manages to be both psychologically intriguing and just plain cool. And what keeps it all up is the absolutely astounding production values. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works has got to be the most beautiful animation I have ever seen from a TV production. Studio Ufotable, has once again outdone themselves. They've always been known for working with large animation budgets, but this is on a whole different level, looking better than even most Japanese animated films I've seen. Each individual frame of artwork is gorgeous, the character designs are more appealing than ever, and the action sequences are some of the greatest spectacles I've seen throughout my time watching anime. It really is that good. So good, in fact, that it makes up for one of the series' biggest problems, which is ironically the pacing. The Unlimited Blade Works movie by Studio Dean may have been too fast, but this new TV series is the opposite. This is a story that probably could have been fully told in fewer than 26 episodes, maybe even half of that, and that gets pretty obvious from time to time where the plot spreads itself thin at certain points, especially in the second half. It never gets to a point where it's unbearably bad, but I swear there is a certain point in this series where everything going on can pretty much be summed up like this.
Everything you've ever believed in is a lie. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
His not.
His too.
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 It's not.
It's two.
It's not.
It's two.
It's not.
It's two.
It's not.
It's two.
It's not. 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 Times infinity.
Times infinity.
And if all of that weren't so beautiful to look at, it sure would have been pretty damn laughable. And aggravating. So yeah, Unlimited Blade Works has the ability to make even the slowest of moments into something enjoyable and thrilling with its fantastic production quality. And I'm not just talking about the art and animation. The music, the voice acting, and the general presentation are all also top-notch. Everything about this series is all around good from a superficial perspective, and from a literary perspective, it's not half bad either. The characters have varying levels of complexity and are all entertaining. And one thing I really like is that even though they're not always necessarily likable, they still continue to be respectable. Take Shiro, for example. Considering he is, in essence, a visual novel protagonist, just how good a character he is comes down to how well written he is in a given adaptation. In this case, Shiro is still the stubborn, naive, closed-minded child I've always seen him as ever since the 2006 series, but this time, I feel as though I can believe in him and understand his motivations. I'm able to respect him for his stubbornness in achieving his goals, and I found myself actually rooting for him in this series. Shiro Emiya, the red-headed protagonist I once hated, is now the red-headed protagonist I know and love. Similar things can be said for Rin Tosaka, a character who also didn't used to hold my interest. Now I'd have to say that I'm quite fond of her. She's great as an independent female character, and also a perfect love interest for Shiro. These two are so sweet together, and this relationship is yet another big reason the Unlimited Blade Works route is just so preferable to me. And of course we have Saber, the poster child of this franchise. She's great, she's always been great, and she always will be great. End of story. I do have a slight issue with the villains, however. With the exception of Archer, I don't really feel as though they were fleshed out enough. I suppose that's what other routes are for, but it's still worth pointing out. Despite this though, the climactic encounter with the final villain is something I will always remember as one of the biggest hype fests I've seen since the final episode of Gurren Lagann. Grand finales and endings mean everything to me, and I'm happy to say that Unlimited Blade Works fully delivers on that aspect. All in all, this series is just an all-out success in my book. It has its issues, but those mostly come down to it being a faithful adaptation of its source material. I do wish that the series took more creative liberties with its plot, because then we could easily have the pacing issues solved with more time spent on developing the other masters, servants, villains, and lesser characters in this universe, thus creating a single independent story with its own identity. I feel as though that would have allowed this series to become even better as a sequel to Fate Zero, thus reinforcing a strong, ongoing storyline of the Fate animated universe. But even exactly as it is, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is still fantastic. Considering its roots, this series is better than it has any right to be. It's funny, really. Fate Stay Night used to be something that I had next to no respect for. Now it's one of my favorite anime franchises, thanks to the efforts of Studio Ufotable. These guys not only reinvigorated my interest with the excellent Fate Zero, but they have now sustained it with their adaptations of Fate Stay Night. And yes, I did say adaptations. These guys are not done with Fate yet. Taking a page out of Studio Dean's book, Ufotable will be adapting another Fate Stay Night route with Heaven's Feel, a theatrical adaptation of the third and final route from the novel. Considering how well Unlimited Blade Works turned out, you can only imagine how excited I am for that. You know what I'd like at this point? If Ufotable insists on producing faithful adaptations of each route, then how about they just do a movie of the Fate route while they're at it? That way we can have definitive animated versions of all three routes, all together as the complete Fate Stay Night saga. Wouldn't that just be amazing? It probably won't happen, but I can dream, can't I? And so, as I dream, I sure hope you all have enjoyed this review. By all means, check this series out. Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is available across various streaming services like Crunchyroll and Hulu, and will be receiving an English dub and Blu-ray release very soon. I also highly recommend that you check out the prequel series Fate Zero as well. These two series are both spectacular in their own special ways, and I honestly can't choose a favorite between them. The Fate franchise has certainly become something to look out for, and I hope that I've at least convinced some of you of that today. With all of that said, this concludes today's episode of Nerdword Reviews. This has been Bryan from Nerdword Entertainment, and I will catch you guys later.